Hi there. I am going live because I'm about to do a really great interview, but it's my first time to do an interview going live, and I'm trying to find my interviewee out there, who is Jessica Alstrom. I see.
Oh,
Okay,
there.
so I have you in, but I'm trying to turn my camera around. My camera is now, it's on me. Okay, so are you there, Jessica?
Yes, I'm here. Can you
Okay,
see me?
great. So I see your camera as turned around. I don't know if there's anything you need to do to your camera so it's not a side view.
You see me okay now?
Yes, yes. Okay. Wow. This is great. This is I'm actually facing, I'm walking outside of my comfort zone here because I've always had fear of Facebook Live. So, uh, yes, but you're certainly not somebody who has that at this point in your life. And I would like to introduce you to our Phuket cleansers. Yes. So this is Jessica Alstrom. And some of you may know her. She's really super popular on YouTube, super popular on Facebook. And I found her. A lot of you guys know that I'm really into quantum jumping, and some of you have taken my quantum jumping classes. And the quantum jumping classes I teach have a bit of a cult following. So a lot of people I teach the classes to, they really stay in touch with me and they keep doing the work. And I'm always getting requests to do more of the classes. So one day I was taking a wrong turn, and I was lost, and it was going to me getting lost was going to make me have to drive another extra hour or so to get home. And I was so angry, and I thought, I just need to put on something that's going to calm me down. Well, let's see what the latest is in quantum jumping. Let's see what other experts are out there and what they're saying, what's the new cool stuff. So I just put on YouTube, and it just started playing different experts on quantum jumping. And Jessica popped up, and I started listening to her. And first I was like, "Who's this?" Like, I know all the quantum jumping experts. Who's this? I had a really bad attitude, and then after a few minutes, I then was like, "Wow, she's like she's not one of the people I know, but she has a really great practical approach." A lot of the people that are experts on quantum jumping, some of them are physicists. Some of them have different approaches, but sometimes it's just really hard to get into. I mean, quantum jumping is a radical concept. So I was really excited about her approach because it was very practical. And you know what, Jessica, this wasn't exactly what I was going to talk to you about today with quantum jumping, but because, a lot of people are listening and they might not even know what quantum jumping is, why don't you explain it from your perspective and share some of those tools? And I think we'll just go with that.
Yeah, well, I think I'm best known for breaking down kind of quantum physics at a fourth grade level. Mm-hmm. So by the time this video is over, all of you guys will understand not only what quantum is, but what quantum physics is in general. So basically what quantum physics is if we're going to backtrack just for a moment, it basically means whatever you're focused on is what becomes your reality around you. Mm-hmm. And for most of us, the human brain is designed for us to focus on the problem. That's just kind of the way that the brain is evolved into our civilization, to focus on the problem. But what happens when we do that, because we are like this biochemical organism that is projecting our reality, where when we focus on the problem, we get more of the problem. But there's billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of parallel realities within our construct that we could grab onto and refocus, which means that if we just learned how to change our focus and hold our focus and become the object of our focus, that within a very short time, we would shift into a reality that was more in alignment with what we chose versus what we were staring at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like whatever you're looking at, you become. And a lot of times we're looking at things based on memories of the past, who we've been in the past, the failures of the past, unrequited love, things we haven't quite manifested yet. And when we do that, what we're doing is we're building and drawing energy to us, because at the basis of our bodies, we're electromagnetic energy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like this living magnet that's focused on, most of the time, what we don't want to create. And by doing that, we're drawing that to us instead of creating what we want. Now, most of us have heard of law of attraction by now. That's not a new term. And when we're talking about law of attraction, what we're actually talking about is what I am basically attracted to, whether it's negative or positive, I become.
Mm-hmm.
So in my university, I teach the really simplistic 4th grade approach by basically altering all 5 senses and accessing the 6th sense to utilize our focus and our frequency and vibration differently than how we're basically taught in our normal civilization.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're taught not to feel that, not to do that, don't say that, don't think that.
Yeah.
And we become basically a projection of what we think we should be versus who we really are. And when we kind of get back inside of ourselves and teach our body and teach our mind how to refocus by doing, you know, what I do is a bunch of quantum pattern clearing processes. I'm a sound healer by nature. So frequency and vibration of interrupting patterns. Basically why so many people have crazy success when they come out to Phuket is the number one reason is they're outside of their environment, where they're in this environment where the frequency and vibration is all about alignment.
Yes.
And so by entering the field of your resort, their whole entire reality's changed. Just by them getting off the airplane, they're having a quantum leap.
Yeah.
Now, if they were to actually access all the potential that they could in that week or that 2 weeks that they were there, by the time they went home, they really understood the premise correctly, they could literally milk the frequency of that existence and bring that into the reality and totally change everything. So does that make sense?
Well, yes, I think what I'd love to do is walk people through it. And I might I might want to switch to the topic that your time travel program. And now, would you consider that under the umbrella of like
totally.
shifting parallel?
Totally.
Okay. So this to me is a really practical and super fun way to quantum jump. And I love that it's efficient and it involves music. And so I'd like to, you explained it really well in a class you did last week. And it was very step by step. It was like the user's guide to time travel for anybody. So I would love if you could just walk our viewers through that, the user's guide to time travel and how you use it and however you want to do it. If you want to, I know you do it with music. I'll turn that over to you. I'll let you explain it.
Yeah. Well, basically, when I teach the process that we call time travel, it is basically about accessing different perspectives of our reality. So everything that's ever happened to you, everything that you've ever witnessed, experienced, is all stored in your database of your cells. So your cells are basically keeping stock of everything that's ever happened to you, everything that could ever happen to you, anything that's ever happened to anyone else.
Yes.
And it is basically holding that in its memory centers so that it can identify with who you are as a being. So when you're making progress to go forward, sometimes the past pulls you back. We call that sabotage, or we call that law of attraction, where it seems like the past keeps bringing you back.
Yes.
So I was going through my healing process. My story is basically, I was kind of I was highly abused child. And therefore, physical, emotional abuse was chronic in my reality until I was, in my teens.
Yes.
And it was so programmed so deeply that when I tried to kind of get away from that reality and create my new self, it just kept pulling me back.
Yes.
And so I dove really deep into psychology and understanding early childhood development and how the brain and neurology works and how neural pathways are created and how cellular memory works.
Yeah.
And what I found is that when I started studying quantum physics, I realized time and space didn't exist.
Yes.
So I thought, well, if time and space doesn't exist, the only thing that is binding me to my past is my memories. And my memories are held together through frequency, which is basically sound.
Yes.
Okay. So is held together through sound.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's held together through sound, then I can interrupt it and reprogram it with sound.
Yes.
So my travel process is basically about going back into the past where
mm-hmm.
those traumas are, physical, emotional, or chemical traumas
yes.
reside, and bringing them forefront into this now reality, and then just basically interrupting them with sound. And the way that I like to do it is a fast track. It takes me about 3 minutes, this process. Anyone can do it. You can do it while you're driving.
Yes.
It's totally safe because you're not in a deep meditative state. You're just almost like in a file cabinet looking for something, and then you're changing a little recipe, because
right.
anytime we go into a negative spectrum and we bring our positive outlook, we neutralize a charge, which means law of attraction stops responding to the trauma that I had when I was 8 years old. You know, my dad was emotionally unavailable. My mom was neglectful. We basically carry that into our relationship patterns. We carry that into our body patterns. We carry those into our money patterns. So what we do is we find the trauma. This is a really fast way that you can do it, is you remember a trauma, and you can go to anyone, you know, time, relationships, health, or money. That's usually what we dwell on as humans. And you're going to pull a memory that felt traumatic. It doesn't have to be a car accident or an abusive situation. It could be a humiliating event at school.
Okay.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to find a song. You're going to go back to that time, you know, maybe it was like 1985 or whatever. You're going to find out what song was popular during that time.
Yeah.
Okay. Or what song you were listening to with your friends. And you may actually have a positive conscious association with that song, but believe it or not, your body is holding on to PTSD in that particular trauma. And if we use that song, we can use it to open the vault of the memory center that's chemically responded to. Yeah. So what I will do is I'll sit and I'll re-listen to that song, and I'll go back into that memory. Yeah. And I'll expose that memory. I'll open it all up so that it can be basically, to the open, which starts to eliminate the charge right away. Anytime you allow yourself to feel anything, you're halfway there to healing. It is only when we suppress things that it keeps lodging in our vibration, and the law of attraction gives us basically the opposite of what we want to create. Okay. So if I really use this music to bring forth, and to me, the true definition of love is acceptance. Yes. So if I kind of sit in the truth of what happened and just be with it, and the music usually will create an emotional response, because what I've learned about, you know, living in Hollywood for several years is movies are not movies without music. Yes. You know, watch any movie, and without that soundtrack, you don't know what you're actually feeling. Like, do an experiment. Try watching a horror movie without the music. You won't be scared. But as soon as that music is cued, you start having an emotional reaction to it. So we use the music to time travel very quickly, and that music will pull you back into the past. You'll re-experience the emotion, anger, frustration, humiliation, guilt, shame, you know, grief, any of the lower frequencies. You just really allow it to be there. Yes. And then, as if you are there as the sound healer yourself, as it exposes itself, you're basically going to now reprogram the cell, and you're close your eyes, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to heal this moment. And you, being the healer within, you know, you come up with an idea of a way that you could heal that child that's sitting there crying, or you could heal, you know, this is obviously a 2-minute explanation, but I do classes all over the world in regards. You know, you go through a healing response, and then once the charge becomes like a little bit neutral, what you'll notice is you'll go through an experience where you're angry again, or you're sad again. Yeah. And if you experience it, and then you go and you take a physical action in your imagination. You're taking a physical action in your imagination. I'm reimagining myself as my own healer, or, you know, beating up that bully, whatever you need to do in that moment until the charge gets neutralized. Then what you do is you listen to the song again, but you actually listen to the song as the victor, not the victim. And you listen to the words of that song, right? And it was funny, because I was working with one of my mentor students the other day, and I asked him, you know, what was one of your traumas? And he says, well, gosh, my divorce was a trauma. And then I said, what song was it? And he said, The Carpenters, We've Only Just Begun. And he said, that's kind of a paradox, because we've only just begun, and I'm going through a divorce. Yeah. But wait till you move through this process, and then you listen to that song again. It's like, we've only just begun. Like, we've just started, because this whole process is about going into the biology and clearing a charge, but then going back to the subatomic place, where that's the quantum universe. Yes. And then deciding who you choose to be based on that song versus what the body recorded with that song. this is probably about a 45-minute teaching class to really get the full principles.
Yes.
But I'd love to take some of your guests out on this journey when we come out to Phuket in November. And
yes.
I do this in the classroom all the time.
Yeah.
I'm kind of known for repatterning PTSD and early childhood trauma, as well as just any kind of block, stuck points, relationships, times, health, and money. These seem to be the ones that keep us from our joy and our happiness. So I like to focus on real world probs, you know, not trying to get out of our body into meditation to go into heavens, but bringing heaven to earth and making, you know, laundry fun again, and paying bills a magical experience, and finding the love of your life, and reconnecting with people, and really living a powerful, healthy lifestyle. So that is kind of the base point. But time travel in its essence is the pure understanding that time doesn't exist in a linear form. We're constantly traveling time in and out of timelines constantly. And music is kind of the vehicle that can bring us into the pain, or it can also bring us into power. So I do this time travel process to also bring people into future timelines where, you know, their successful businesses and their successful relationship is, and the healing of their diseases. And we can take them forward in time. We can take them sideways in time. We can take them back in time. And we use music as the emotional vehicle to get us wherever we want. So it's like, I'm all about hacking the system and hacking the matrix, and being able to get in and out of being kind of stuck in who you believe you are versus what the potential is. Because to me, what quantum means is potential. It means all inclusive. And we realize that at the base point of who we are, we're energy first. If we realize that we're energy first and then we become matter, we can't change our lifestyle in the matter part. We have to return to the energy part of us. We have to return to the center point of who we are before we can actually make any big changes. So anytime you're quantum leaping, it is because you've broken patterns, which creates new worlds that can emerge. And when those new worlds emerge, then you get to re-identify who you are. And the secret to having quantum leaping actually stick, because people quantum leap all the time.
Yes.
But how do we actually make a quantum leap stick, which means move from one reality into another and then actually be able to live that reality?
Yes.
Is actually then demonstrating that state of being. It's demonstrating who you chose to be. So after people leave your beautiful resort and they go home, they actually need a little bit of an education course before they go home, and how to treat the next chapter of their reality, so they don't go back to the past, you know, because you can have that crash that happens after a beautiful workshop or something, where you start to reemerge in those toxic relationships again, because the excitement of, you know, the island is gone. But to be able to have them go home with something tangible that they can hold on to for the rest of their lives. So they take the frequency of Phuket with them, and they can learn this time travel process, and you can do it anywhere, anytime, on anyone. Believe it or not, I've done this time travel process on deceased people. I have done this time travel process on my children. And, you know, I have recreated their birth cycles because, you know, I wasn't so super conscious back then. And really what it's doing is it's working on my universe. Because we're all own unique universe. But if I know that if I'm purifying my own guilt and shame, or my own unconsciousness, that we're all quantum entangled, it's the unity process. So if we're all connected, then, and when I take care of me and I heal me, then I'm healing you as well. And I'm healing my children, and I'm healing my lineage, and I'm healing my bloodline, and I'm healing my star families, and I'm healing all these wonderful things by just taking responsibility for my own lower frequencies that are stored at my cellular and atomic levels.
Okay, so I'm loving this process, and I just want to I want to review it with an example. Okay, so this is like I wish I could think of somebody else's example, but I'm going to have to get personal and think of mine. So
yeah, please.
You know, I had a lot of heartbreaks in my dating life, like over and over, to the point where I just expected it, right? I would expect heartbreaks. And so if I was to think about the very first time I had a crush on anybody, it was when I was like 6 years old. I had a crush on this boy in school. I remember his name was Jeff Worth. And yeah, I mean, it was just, I remember that was the first time he was cute, you know, I was 6 years old, but he didn't like me, of course. And Wow, now that I'm thinking about it, every boy I had a crush on in elementary school had kind of a real traumatic experience in their own lives. If I think of Jeff Worth, when I had a crush on him, oh gosh, this is real personal. I really won't get, I won't. Yeah, I'll just say it's just Jeff Worth. Yeah, Jeff Worth, when I was thinking, well, he cut his fingers off. He was out camping with his family right in the middle of my big first crush when we were in first grade. He went camping with his family, and his brother was chopping wood and cut his fingers off. But but I stayed in love with him all of elementary school, and he for some reason was always in my class every year. You know, I don't know why. He was always there. But you know, even all the way up to middle school, he never liked me. He didn't even know I was alive. You know. But every other boy I would have a crush on all through elementary school, all through middle school, all through high school. It never, you know, it was the same kind of rejection. And so I just expected to be kind of rejected. So you're saying, so when I was in first grade, it was 1974. And what was popular, music was popular, is the Bee Gees had this song called Jive Talking. Mama's got a squeeze, no, Daddy's got a squeeze box. Mom, I don't know if you know that song. I can't even remember. I can't remember that one. Don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat. Don't tip the boat over. Some of these old songs. So you're saying I would go listen to Rock the Boat or Jive Talking by the Beatles, by the Bee Gees. Okay, I'll think of that one. Now, I don't associate Jeff Worth with that music because basically he was never around me. But I remember that was the music at the time. He was just a kid in my class, but there was no music in the class. So I would hear these songs after school with my friends. But it takes me back, you know, thinking those songs take me back to first grade with my first crush. So you're saying that I would reimagine seeing Jeff Worth in class with his crayons, just like me. I am actually visualizing him right now, and me just having a crush. And it's funny, I noticed what I like about him. But thinking about it now, I can actually see what I liked about him. I liked his skin. I liked his bowl haircut. Yeah, and then I can play Jive Talking by the Bee Gees, right? And then I can imagine myself longing for Jeff and him never even seeing me, knowing I was alive.
Right.
And you're saying then I can recreate the story that Jeff Worth actually does look at me. Maybe he throws a crayon at me and we, you know, fall in love. And then I play Jive Talking again, or do I play a success song as I make the new visual?
You know, there's a couple of different ways that you can time travel. There's actually 1,000 different ways, and I teach all different ways. But fast one that we can do is first there's one. I want to just back up 1 minute. So there's very important piece of the time travel, and that is called find the frequency. Yes. And so when you are remembering this kind of unrequited love, you know, between you and this little boy, and it, you know, because that's important. Like, what was the feeling? Because we actually have to connect with the actual feeling, which is the frequency. So if emotions are coming and going, feelings are like anchors, right? So we've got to find the frequency. It's like frequency versus vibration. Yes. So is the frequency like, does it feel like rejection? Does it feel like abandonment? Does it feel like, do you feel, you know, not seen and heard? Like, what would be the root thing that you kind of walked away? Because it sounds like what happened is in that time, it was a painful experience. And we don't realize that, you know, oh, when you're first grade, you know, you have crush. But to a first grader, a crush is as big as, you know, falling in love as a grown up, because there's no time and space, and your soul is as old as the universe. So having a crush when you're in first grade is just as important as having a crush when you're 35. So finding the frequency of where you were, you know, rejected or, you know, not seen. We've got to find the frequency, because that's what we have to actually express and open up in the cellular memory. And we don't want to just kind of glaze over it and be like, oh yeah, he didn't like me, and then I'm going to pretend he did like me. Because we've got to get down into the layers of where the roots are. You know, if you cut grass is going to keep growing. So we don't cut grass, we want to get into the roots, and we want to pull the roots. Yeah. So the pattern with men can change for you, because it sounds like it might still be vibrating in your reality in this current moment. Like, you know, you still haven't, you know, cleared that particular pattern. And the thing about time and space is it doesn't exist. So if we create a pattern in first grade and we never clear it, it will still exist now. So what was the frequency?
The strange thing is, I feel like the frequency was acceptance. Like, oh, I get why he doesn't like me. Of course he doesn't like me. That's weird. I don't know. So that means maybe there was a rejection maybe in kindergarten. I think I don't know. It's like not being that surprised he doesn't like me.
Well,
Accepting he doesn't like me. What was that?
I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm looking in your timeline right now, and it's actually coming from Dad. So there was some moments where you weren't seen and heard for who you were as a being versus what was expected of you. It was kind of like this kind of like, hello, I'm here, and I'm picking that energy up with you and your dad. He had a lot going on. He was very he was distracted. So, as a little girl, that can be very heartbreaking. And then, of course, the first boy that you like is going to, glance right by you, right?
Yeah.
So even though we're talking about the first grader, if I was in a session with you, we would actually go back to Dad and we would do some regression work we would do some time travel around that. Yeah. And we would get that little girl inside of you, the daddy that she needed and wanted. We would, we would create different scenarios so that you could release different hormones in your body that would give you a state of ecstasy and excitement versus sadness and grief. Because I can see the grief coming up in you just as we're kind of talking about that. Yeah. And your first heartbreak is usually, the first heartbreak that we have is usually kind of like, it's so unaware, because the first 7 years, year 1 through 7 is who am I in my family? Yes. And the 7 years is who am I out in the world? And that's usually when the heartbreaks really are apparent. When Dad forgets to pick us up from school, it's like, it's not heartbreaking, but the first boy who like you, that's like devastating. Yeah. So we kind of are in this state of glaze the first 7 years, and then whatever happens in those first 7 years becomes the base of our emotional PTSD. And so, but we can time travel any event, anytime, and we just keep going back and back and back and back. And I've had people in sessions go back into, their birth process. They've gone in other, dimensions and places and timelines. So, with sound, all things are possible. And it's just about allowing yourself to go on a journey through time. So that particular song that you pulled, if you sat with it, probably what the song would remind you of is an event that happened probably at home, because that's actually where it started. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question, because see, when I think of that heartbreak, it really wasn't bad. It wasn't that much of a heartbreak. He didn't like me. It wasn't the biggest deal in my life. I was only 6. But when I remember heartbreak really being extremely excruciating and painful and time consuming and overwhelming was when I was going through puberty, and I was starting to really fall in love with boys, So I remember my heartbreak when I was in 6th grade, or fifth and 6th grade. And that for me feels like that's what really made the imprint. So maybe it was a different, it was just a feeling of rejection I was having when I was in 1st grade. But that heartbreak of, being a female and being feminine and being rejected as a female, I really started feeling that in puberty. So, and those emotions are stronger.
Right.
So I think that would be quite easy.
Same time, you could have never attracted a heartbreak in 6th grade if there wasn't an earlier event. Because every moment is neutral. Every present moment is neutral. It has nothing attached to it. Yeah. So if a moment happens and it's a trigger moment or a heartbreak, usually what happens is the dull heartbreaks begin. Yes. It's like Dad separates from you, you separate from yourself, school separates from you, boom, you start to have these emotional awarenesses of all these hormones rushing through you, and now everything's a really big deal. Yeah. But, I have a 5-year-old son, and if I took his cookie away, it would be equivalent of someone stealing my car. Yeah. So it's a really big deal. I think what we do as adults is we downplay what children are going through, because in their reality, everything is huge. Yes. And I think when you're looking back at that little girl in first grade, you might be like, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. He just wasn't into me. But, you know, what did that create in you? What did that state of being become? Is now the girl that is, you know, not seen and heard. You know, it's like you become that character. And when you become that character, your cells go, oh, yeah, we're the girl that's not seen and heard. Yes. And now we're like literally portraying that girl of maybe being super consciously extroverted, but on the inside, extremely introverted and overwhelmed because we're not seen and heard. So we develop the character of our presence based on the patterns that we have basically rolled through. And so when we're quantum leaping, we can't bypass emotional PTSD because it keeps pulling us back to the past. You know, I know a client has a lot of PTSD when I'm asking her or him about the now moment, and they keep taking me back to the past. So I know a lot of times we've got to clear out the past so the future can even be any different than the past. So each little tiny heartbreak, emotional, each little, you know, each pain to the body, each chemical traumatic event, you know, poison to the body has a huge biological effect about who you believe you actually are. Because your quantum universe is actually being created by who you think you are, not who I think you are. So our conscious mind is like, awesome, but I'm also, you know, like your conscious mind is constantly in this perpetual state of arrogance and insecurity. If you've noticed, like, I'm awesome, but I'm not. I'm awesome, but I'm not awesome. And then the subconscious is where all the patterns are. And the unconscious is basically where the atomic energy of creation is. And so we've got to go all the way down into that subatomic place. And we've got to change basically the blueprint of who you believe you are. And sound is the fastest way that I've ever seen to do that. And I like everything to be a party and a celebration. So we don't use sophisticated technology necessarily like tuning forks. We use just music. Because music is our greatest time traveler. Yes.
Yeah. So you're saying that, okay, say I like, because you get in the car and you're going to play music anyway. And say you're like, I got to drive to this place. I'm going to make my therapeutic playlist. And today when I go to work, I'm going to put on some of the songs from, I actually, for some reason, want to time travel the heartbreak that to me was so painful when I was, like I said, in puberty. Possibly I don't feel I can access those memories of my father because that would have been quite young. But that's something like today, I could get in my car and, you know, play music from when I was in 6th and 7th grade. And I could recreate that memory while I'm driving and then turn it into a triumphant memory where he was chasing me around instead of me chasing him around. And you're saying play those same songs. Like, don't change the song to another song. Okay, play that same song and visualize a triumphant memory, okay? And then you're saying I could go into the future and I could create a song that, see, we don't know what songs there are in the future, but maybe we could pick out a futuristic song, a song that we define as futuristic. Maybe some of your music, you have the futuristic music. And then I visualize myself in the future with some future song. So I can not only redo my past, I can create my future.
And that is your role here. You are creating your own reality. So your job is to take responsibility for when you weren't aware and create your reality how you choose to. So what I recommend is when you're working in the future timelines, is it's very important to choose music that you have no association with. And the reason why is because sound is the essence of vibration, is the essence of creation. So if you have any association with a song and you're trying to create your future, your cells pull you into the moment it last heard that song. So, you know, it was funny is like I was sharing with my boyfriend the other time is like when I was going into the workshop of my mind, which I call the Imagineer. And I was like, okay, time for me to create my soulmate, you know. And here I am, like my story in the past was love was pain. Like, you know, all my parents, it was painful. My relationship was painful. My divorce was painful, blah. And so I was like looking for music that I could use to create him in my workshop. And the only genre of music that I had not like dove down deep into ever was country music. I was actually repelled by it. And so it was the only genre left because I'm so eclectic with my musical taste. And so I'm okay, I'm going to have to use country music to build this person in the future because it's the only music that I don't have association with. And so I started started listening to this country music, and I started to fall in love with the stories. And, you know, the Southern gentleman, and, you know, opening the door for you, and, you know, looking into your big blue eyes. And I'm like, that's what I want, right? So I start using my time travel techniques to kind of create my future with this new genre of music.
Yes.
And what do you know? I found myself a cowboy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, what's really interesting is, and sometimes when I teach quantum jumping, I will teach my knowledge of the U.S. time travel program. And this is where some people are like, oh no, you guys were really cool with all this, you know, imaginary time travel, but you're saying that the U.S. government is into time travel.
Oh,
this
yes.
is where a lot of people might want to walk, but don't walk, because that's what's really fascinating. And I tend to show U.S. time travel, even though we're talking about like time travel for personal reasons, but I like to show the U.S. government time travel program, because it tends to open the mind. And there's so much evidence, and so, you know, you can go on YouTube and you can see documentaries, you know, really well done professional documentaries that were on our History Channel showing about the U.S. time travel program that Einstein and Tesla were involved in. And again, like the
Philadelphia experiment. Yes.
So yeah, if you go onto YouTube right now and you type in Philadelphia Experiment History Channel, you will see a History Channel documentary on it. So I like to open people's minds up to the time travel concept, even though they're going to use it for personal reasons, by showing, you know, real technology that time travels people. But I got really into studying the history of U.S. time travel. And what was so fascinating, I don't know if you know this, Jessica, is they were using sound technologies.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I know all about it.
they were using sound tech. You know, Tesla, who created this one particular system, it was called a Vortal tunnel. Quantum access was the program, and they had 2 monks, 2 Italian monk musicologists had kind of come across the using sound technology for time travel in a way that you were talking about, like through therapy with their parishioners. 2 monks in Italy, and that was like in the early 30s and early 1930s. And so Tesla, maybe it was even in the 20s, I'm not exactly sure, but Tesla learned about how these monks in Italy were using sound technology like you are. And he used it to create actually this quantum access device that was the basis of the U.S. time travel program. So it's really interesting, because and again, I'm saying this because it might open people's belief system that this is major technology. You know, if we can time travel humans using sound technology, we can certainly time travel our mind. And who hasn't listened to a song and time traveled? You know, everybody.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
Yes. So I have to congratulate you, because I haven't heard of anybody doing this technique since these monks, and I don't think you even knew about these monks, right? I wish I remember their names. Yeah. But yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I've been working with Tesla's information for years, and you know, on the global tour that we're going to be doing, which you're going to be a part of, which I'm going to be interviewing you next. That you're bringing in the history and the breath and all your magic that you're going to be bringing. But the point of the tour that we're creating as a global, basically an activation, it's a global time travel. And what we're doing is we're going to be accessing certain frequencies to help the body expand into unlimited potentials. You know, if you've studied anything as far as where the planet is going, as far as the evolution goes, is where we're expanding ourselves into unlimited possibilities or superhuman potential. People are all over the world moving back into their psychic abilities, you know, the ability to be telepathic, the ability to, you know, and be an empath, the ability to be clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudio. All these kind of gifts are coming back into our reality, but believe it or not, they're triggered by sound. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do a cheat code or a fast track for evolution by touring around the whole planet and doing these live sound activations through song, through dance, through music, ceremony. and through expansion of our own consciousness in a really kind of a fun party. Because I don't believe that it needs to be a sticky, you know, meditative retreat where we sit around like this. Instead, we're going to move our bodies, and we're going to be basically downloading these new frequencies that help us open and align. Yeah. So it's all about sound. Sound is the conduit of both the past and the present. It is where the pain and the power exist. And it is the most simplistic way for us to clear all of our trauma and move into a state of unconditional love and joy. So it is really, really awesome that I get to, you know, basically play and sing and dance for a living. So I'm just excited to be here. Yeah.
Well, I want to announce, and this is our first public announcement, that you will be coming to Phuket Cleanse. November, will you give us the dates? Do you have the exact dates?
We will be there November 1st through the 15th.
Okay.
So we'll be crashing your party for a good 2 weeks. Yes.
Well, what's really exciting is that we have a lot of people who just enjoy coming to Phuket Cleanse anyway, to do all the fitness, the meditations, you know, everything that we normally do there. But what's going to be great about those 2 weeks is that you'll be there running workshops, ceremonies, meditations, and really deep transformation work every night. And what's cool is that no one's going to miss all the usual fun stuff at Phuket Cleanse. That's going to be going on all day long, and cool things will be going on at night too. But the benefit is they're going to be able to do some really deep work, and everyone's goal is that when they go home, they can continue that transformation, or, you know, take things to a place they never even imagined. And that's the benefit of coming those 2 weeks that you're there. There's going to be no extra fee for anyone who's coming. It's just a wonderful, wonderful gift that you're going to be there doing this work. So this is our first announcement, and, you know, we're really excited. And then, of course, I'm going to be with Jessica at the beginning of her tour. And will you announce the dates of that and
yes,
talk about that?
That is going to be October 5th through the 7th in Miami for this year, October 2018. Yes. We are going to be at a beautiful, beautiful hotel in
amazing
Miami. And I'll put the links in the comments for you so that people can check it out.
Okay.
The place that we've chosen is very deliberate as far as what we can create and expand. Yeah. You know, we're going to have the first evening is we're going to have this in this beautiful round auditorium amphitheater of all rose quartz, basically floors, and this amazing acoustics, so that we can really bring in the frequencies for the weekend. And then you're going to be joining us on our Saturday process to help everyone move through a breath experience, where they're first going to be using a lot of the Tesla equipment that we're bringing. Helena, who you got to have her on your show here too. Yeah. She's been working with the Tesla coils for years and years, delivering frequency and change all around the world. And she's going to be gridding the property with this technology to amplify basically the activation of our own DNA. Wow. And going to be drinking this quantum water, which is your followers are familiar with Dr. Emoto, where he talked about charging water, because water holds an infinite amount of memory. So we can program water into any frequency that we choose. And then, you know, because we're 70% water, anytime we ingest water, we're ingesting the pure frequency. So we're going to have the sound of the Tesla coils moving at a kind of an unconscious level. We're going to have the music that's going to make the cells in the body want to dance. We're going to have the water that's going to hydrate and basically memorize who you really are. And it's all going to be done through this weekend. And then you're going to do some breath work with us. You're going to do some history with us. You're going to do a sun salutation meditation on the beach with us. So it's really come together with all these amazing quantum teachers that are coming together to basically deliver basically the time travel of the future. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it sounds so space age, but it's actually really for real. And exciting is that, you know, we're going to do it in Miami. We're going to bring it to Phuket Cleanse, and it's just going to be crazy, right? It's just going to be a crazy, wild, amazing, futuristic time travel party. So
we've got this amazing DJ / producer / sound healer. Her name is Tasha Blank. And she's recorded some music with me Maybe some of you guys aren't familiar with light language, but it is basically a language that is before any other language was ever created. It is the base point of the soul. So if the soul had a language, it would be called light language. And I happen to be singing and speaking in it for a while now. And what it's doing is it's kind of cutting through the barrier of regular language that can have a lot of triggers to it. You know, the word love is a trigger word because it usually associates with pain. Yes. And so if we could communicate to each other in a non-trigger environment, words, I mean, maybe even some words you've heard today have kind of rustled some of your feathers. But if I were to speak to you in light language, the only thing that would happen is your ego might be confused. Yeah. But at a cellular level, what we would be doing is we'd be doing some deep penetrative healing. So I've been doing some music with her, and we've been recording all dance music because I believe that life should be a party. Everything should be a celebration. Everything should just be about acting as who we choose to be versus constantly going on this spiritual journey where we've got to find ourselves. How about if we just quantum jump into the reality of our choice and then start acting that out? Yeah. And we can do just celebration of our life of who we choose to be versus who we have been.
Yeah. Well, this is super exciting, and you have so many techniques for us. I mean, this time travel one is just one of many. Yeah, and so I really encourage people to go on YouTube and look you up. And again, I warning, you'll start binge watching Jessica because she's got so many cool techniques. So, and then again, her Facebook page has lots of content. And so thank you for everybody watching. And please, get in touch with us if you're interested in coming. I'm sure that it's going to get booked out. So if you're interested in coming to Phuket Cleanse at that time, it's going to be an amazing transformation, history making experience for sure. So thanks to everybody who's watching, and thanks to you, Jessica.
Any of your Melanie fans out there, I'm going to be interviewing you in just a couple of hours probably, and what I would love for you to do is join me on my page, and we can talk about what you're going to be doing for the tour, so so that my followers can get a little taste of your magic. So thank you so much for having me on here. And you and I have become quite besties, so I'm sure we'll talk right after.
Okay, bye everybody. It's so good to see all the names here. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Now I have to figure out how to turn this off. Yeah.